This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Bristol Flyers Podcast. We are powered by Matchday Live. I'm Joel Osborne, and this is usually the part of the show where I introduce the good friend Sam Hardy. But he's not here. Sam is not here. There is an empty desk next to me, and that is because Sam has gone AWOL. We have to start this week's show with another apology for not releasing an episode last week, and that is because Sam was away for half term. So Sam was away for half term last week. This week, he's just a busy man. He's got his work stuff going on. So it's just me this week. We've got another 20th anniversary special coming your way. We do have Producer Dan with us, though. Producer Dan, how are you, sir?
Yes, you're not alone, Joel. I'm here with you, and I'm fighting fit again.
You're good. That's good to hear. You were through the wars last time, weren't you?
Wow, I sounded rough. But yeah, I'm back.
Good to hear that you are very much alive and kicking. And thanks for being here because I've got no one else with me.
You're very welcome.
Did you enjoy the international break? Have you enjoyed your international break? Because we're still on the international break right now.
We are still on it. Yeah, it was good. We had some good football in the meantime. I went to the cinema. I didn't know what to do with myself at the weekend with no basketball. I went to the cinema. I watched the new Captain America film.
Oh, not Bridget Jones.
Not Bridget Jones. No, didn't watch that one.
My girlfriend went to watch Bridget Jones. She said she loved it.
You went as well. Come on.
No, I didn't. I didn't go. I left her to it on that one. I left her to it. But it has been a busy international break for the Flyers because on Friday night the players were in a box with watches of Bath for the 2-1 win over Middlesbrough. That was a big win, right?
Very big win. Very big win. City. I mean, basketball fans are used to playoffs. Bristol City fans, not so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, City did sneak into the playoffs, if only for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're in and around it at the moment, Joel. Was Owen there? And Evan?
I believe so. I believe so. I'm not exactly sure who, because I wasn't there personally. I actually watched it at home because I was watching the GB game at the same time. GB were playing against the Netherlands to qualify for Eurobasket, which is absolutely huge. So a bunch of the players went down on Friday night. They went to go watch Middlesbrough in the box. And then on Saturday night, we were invited down to our good friends at the Bristol Pitbulls Ice Hockey Club. And we did the Flyers takeover at Planet Ice, which was incredible. We had Keely Johnson and Pasquale Landolfi doing the ceremonial puck drop before the match started. And we had a couple of the guys. Who was it? It was Evan Walsh and Ibuka Ekwe. They were being interviewed at the end of the first period on the broadcast, which is done by none other than yourselves at Brandvox.
Yes, we have fingers in many pies. We do indeed. Yeah, it was very cool. Good to see them there.
So thank you so much to our friends at the Pitbulls for inviting us down. Lots of collaborations to come in future, I am sure, because it's an exciting partnership with the ice hockey team. I feel like we have very similar audiences. So if you haven't had a chance to go check out the Pitbulls ice hockey team, do check it out. They play in Filton at Planet Ice, just next to Cribs Causeway. And I mentioned earlier there, Producer Dan, of course, the big news of the international break. Coach Kapoulas, of course, has been out with the GB national team, the busiest man in British basketball. He, of course, is on the coaching staff for the men's national team. They only went and qualified for Eurobasket.
Very good.
Huge.
And they did it at a canter, right? It looked like they did it with a game to spare. Have I got that right?
They did. They qualified officially on Friday when they defeated the Netherlands in a very, very tight game. Away from home. And then apart from that, it was a homecoming on Monday evening at the Newcastle Virtue Motors Arena because they beat Czechia and they only went and beat them by a solid 20-point margin. Yeah, so That was huge. I'll tell you what, on that Czechia team, some talented players. Wojciech Ruben used to play for London Lions. And of course, Richard Balint. Of course, Flyers fans will know Richard Balint. Played for Brno. A couple of other Brno players are in there as well. So a very talented Czechia team that came to Newcastle on Monday.
Well, I was going to ask you, Joel, actually. I mean, that was a good team, but what teams are we expecting to play now that we've qualified for Eurobasket? There's some big countries in this.
There are, but also the big NBA players come back for it as well. So it's exciting. The draw hasn't been done yet. We find out the draw soon, and we'll know what group we're in. But GB could very well be playing. You know, if we get drawn against someone like Greece, Giannis has actively gone out there and said if he's healthy, he's going to play in Eurobasket.
Oh my goodness!
In August.
France?
France have all the NBA players come
Wow.
back for it. So like literally, it's the best of each country you will see at Eurobasket. It's huge,
Amazing.
It's like it's basketball's equivalent of the Euros in football. So that starts in August, and GB will be there.
Nice.
This August. It goes through from August until sort of mid to late September. So keep an eye on that. Coach Kapoulas will be out there as well with the national team, and of course Mark Stutzel as head coach.
Well, I was going to say, great chance here for Coach K to do some mingling, get to know some of these big French players, Greece players, Giannis. Just get to know Coach K.
That's it. Bring him back to Bristol. How about you fancy a little 10-day contract with the Flyers? What do you reckon? It'd be great. So coming up on this week's show, because Sam's not here, it is the latest of our 20th anniversary specials, and we'll be speaking to former Bristol Flyers Eric Lockett, who played for the club from 2019 to 2021. You remember Eric, Dan?
I do remember Eric. Yes, I do. And I know Sam remembers him very well as well.
Sam does remember him very well.
Shame he's not here.
Yeah, his wife Helen has a mad crush on Eric Lockett, which probably explains why he's not here.
Yeah.
So we're speaking to Eric. We haven't actually done the interview yet. We're doing this bit before the actual interview takes place, so it will be really exciting, I'm sure. We're going to talk about a few things, including what it was like playing through the pandemic season, the lockdown season of 2020-2021, and we'll learn about his basketball journey since leaving the club. So he's gone on to play for some really talented teams. Look forward to hearing more about that. Quick reminder, though, before we get to this interview, if you're enjoying the Bristol Flyers podcast, please leave us a rating and a review on your usual podcast provider. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. Please leave a comment in the comment section down here somewhere. And also, like we say it every week, 50% of our viewers don't even subscribe to us on YouTube. So please do that. It really helps us grow. But Dan, without further ado, I think it's time we get to the interview. What do you think?
Yes, let's do it.
Here is this week's interview with former Bristol Flyer Eric Lockett.
You're listening to the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
What's up, Flyers fans? This is the part of the podcast where we tell you all about our brand new podcast sponsor, Matchday Live. So Matchday Live is essentially a Netflix-style OTT platform that sporting clubs and organisations can monetize their own content and bring fans closer to the action. They help sporting teams and organisations become the broadcaster with live streaming and on-demand solution tailored to the world of sports. Deeper insights, richer monetization capabilities, and active support to ensure your fans are never in the dark. We're actually working with Matchday Live right now, Sam, to build a brand new Bristol Flyers TV platform that we hopefully be coming next season. But it's not just the Flyers that Matchday Live are working with, because they work with a whole bunch of other sporting teams and organisations, including Bristol City, Chesterfield FC, and our good friends at the Bristol Pitbulls Ice Hockey Club. So if you want to find more about how you can enhance your content with your own OTT platform, courtesy of Matchday Live, you can reach out to their sales team, sales@matchdaymediagroup.com. That's sales@matchdaymediagroup.com.
This is the Bristol Flyers Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Bristol Flyers podcast for our latest 20th anniversary special. And this week, we are not jumping back too far in time because we are only hopping back to 2019. We are very pleased to be joined by a Flyer who played for us from 2019 through to 2021. Please welcome to the show, Eric Lockett in the house. Eric, how's it going?
Going good. Glad to be here on the podcast.
Mate,
see you again. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I don't think the podcast was a thing when you were with us, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Have you done things like this before? I guess you've done sort of things maybe through college or through your pro career or anything like that?
Not really. Like probably with a friend. I did a Friends podcast once, but not like with a team. So this is the first.
Yeah, mate. Quite a lot has changed since it's not been too long since you really left the Flyers. It's been a few years or so. Quite a bit has changed within the club. How's life treating you right now? Because you're joining us from Hungary, aren't you?
Correct. It's been good. Been to a few different countries since I've been with the Flyers, but the career's been going well. Can't complain at all.
And you have to forgive me for the pronunciation. You're currently playing for a team called Atamaru. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's how I pronounce it. At least sometimes I feel like I get it wrong.
How are you enjoying the life? How are you enjoying life out in Hungary? How are you out there soaking up the culture, the environment, things like that?
Yeah, it's good. I'm in a quiet town, real small, about like a hour or so away from Budapest, but it's cool. It's calm lifestyle. The season is going great. Currently in second place. Only lost 2 games this season, so just happy with where we are right now.
Are you still able to keep up with like the Flyers whilst you're out there? Are you like checking in on results on Instagram or things like that? What have you made of the season from an outsider view?
Yeah, for sure. I always see everything that's being posted because I follow you guys, and I still keep in touch with Raph. So I see all the results, and few of my guys have came through the Flyers recently. So I always keep in touch. This season, I know it's been kind of up and down. Had some big wins in the European competition. I remember seeing. So yeah, I definitely keep up with the Flyers.
You can say you mentioned the European competition. I mean, obviously when you were with the club Flyers, they weren't playing in Europe yet. Like, how impressed have you been with sort of the trajectory of the club, the way that Flyers is going over the years to now be playing in European competition like the EMBL? And of course, you're looking even further ahead for the program now with the news about the new arena right here at Ashton Gate looking to get started this summer.
No, it's great. Since I've left, it's just been trending upward. Like Coach Andreas, he's doing a great job there. Big wins throughout there. And playing your European competition is amazing. And I feel like it's just going to keep growing, especially with the new arena, getting more fans involved and just building the culture up. Still, Bristol is on its way for sure.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on and spending time out of your busy schedule to chat to us, because of course this year we're celebrating 20 years of Flyers, and as part of that we're getting former players back on the show to reminisce on their time with the club and tell stories about their journey and learn where they've been since leaving the club. You mentioned Coach K there. I know you guys are still very much in touch, right?
Yeah, I reach out randomly here just to say what's up, check in. I know when I first left and I ended up in Greece the following year, I reach out to him, ask him for help, tips, what he would think. But yeah, that's my guy right there. I remember getting coffees with him when I was there in Bristol. That's kind of how we bonded, over coffee. So yeah, that's my guy right there.
Yeah, I gotta say, because obviously he's built this club from the ground up over this 20-year period. When we first started, it was back in NBL Division 3. It was the lowest level of British basketball you could play, and then over the years now to a point where we are playing in Europe. It's some achievement, isn't it? You don't really see that very often in sport. One person sort of building a club from the ground up and taking it as far as the Flyers have gone.
For sure, that's very rare. I feel like you never see that. You never see that. It's either a coaching change, management change, but nah, Andres, he's been there, like you said, from the ground up. This is impressive.
Yeah. Before we dive into the convo and delve into your journey as a player, I just want to sort of give a bit of context to some of our listeners about your background, because you were a key part of our 2019-20 roster. You sort of joined late in the season because, and that's the season that was cut short because of COVID, wasn't it? And then and then you came back to the club for the 2020-21 season, which was essentially played behind closed doors. Just kind of give us a bit of a rundown of your pro career after you then left the Flyers. Where have you been? Where have you been playing since?
After the Flyers, I went to Greece the following year for ours in Thessaloniki, pretty big club out there. Had a solid season, made the playoffs. Then following that, I went to Nürnberg in Czech Republic, played Champions League, had a solid season there. Then last year, I was in Rostock, Germany in BBL, and now here in Hungary.
Yeah. Where would you say he's been, obviously apart from Bristol, of course, where would you say has been your favourite place to play so far on that journey?
I would probably have to say Greece. The league was super tough, super competitive, and then also like life outside of the court, living in Greece with the weather, the food, the people. It was a vibe, and the basketball culture there with the fans. It was something I never experienced before.
Because you're part of a very small group of kind of former Flyers players who've used their time in Bristol as a real stepping stone to progress their career, to go on to have a fantastic career in some of the best leagues in Europe, such as the top flight in Greece, as you mentioned there, the Champions League, of course, and the Bundesliga. Talk us through kind of like how that your time with us in Bristol helped you develop into that player that you are now today.
Yeah, I felt like I learned the game of basketball too when I was there in Bristol, which I felt like opened the doors to, enter Europe, just know how to play and being competitive. And then shout out to the guys on the team, like, because I'll have to come in and compete against, Rav, Zach, Levi, like everybody, Mark, like, so that also played a part into growing as a player, coming in, competing every day, Justin Baker, all these guys. So that definitely helped on the journey of.
Well, let's run it back to 2019 when you first joined the Flyers. You just graduated from NC State. It wasn't really until 2020 that you actually joined the club, because you arrived as a sort of mid-season addition, didn't you? Because we actually had an injury to Fred Thomas, who he picked up a wrist injury. We just finished the cup final in 2020. We lost to Worcester. Talk us through what you remember about that first phone call with Coach Kapoulas that led to you joining us in Bristol.
Yeah, it was kind of like perfect timing. I know I was coming from Qatar. I was in Qatar for a few months and then left and went back home, was just, chilling, hanging out at home, working out. And then got that phone call. My agent told me about it, got on the phone with Coach, and then I like this vibe. He told me how he wanted to use me. I'd be able to come in and, help the team right away. So it was kind of a no-brainer, because I know I wanted to leave the Middle East and get into Europe, and I felt like it was a good stepping stone.
We get a lot of rookie players when they come in and they say, like, playing in the UK was a really great place for me to actually start my pro career, simply because of the culture and the language is very similar. We all speak English. It's easy for me to settle out there in terms of actually playing somewhere where you can communicate with everyone and actually have that solid. Was that something quite big for you when you're sort of having that chat with Coach and you're like, okay, UK is English speaking. It's somewhere I feel like I can settle in quite well?
Honestly, no, because I feel like I didn't have a problem with being abroad, because I was just coming from Qatar, which was a complete culture shock. So for me, it was just more so playing under a coach who knew basketball. Coaches, he's Greek, so he understands basketball at a high level. So it's just, okay, let me get to a place where I can expand my basketball knowledge and play at the highest level that I could at the time, and just, get exposure into Europe. Because sometimes I feel like you hear like UK basketball isn't viewed as high as other countries, but I feel like if you go there and, take care of business, as you've seen with me, Zach, Justin Gray, even Fred, like, you can go on from there.
Yeah, I imagine it all then happened quite quickly for you, because 1 minute you're on the phone with Coach, the next minute you're sort of flying out. Just kind of talk us through that timeline. How quickly was it from that first phone call to then you actually suiting up on court for the Flyers?
I think it was like a couple of days. It was like 2 or 3 days, and next thing you know, I forget who we played. I want to say Worcester.
Yeah.
That was my first game. And then I was just on the court just trying to figure it out as I go. All that happened pretty fast. Do you remember? But it's fun.
I was going to say, do you remember much about that first game? Because I imagine it's all quite a blur. You're probably a bit jet lagged at the same time. You've probably got to learn the playbook.
Right. Nah, I don't remember much. Just going out there, playing hard, trying to make plays, fit in.
Yeah. Had you been to the UK before at all in your life, before actually joining the Flyers? Or was that literally your first time straight out there, new country, first time?
Literally the first time.
Wow, that's amazing. And then just to go out there and then sort of, you quickly then became that sort of fan favourite. And I guess, this was the year that then got cut short. So I think it was like, it must have been like 4 or 5 games, right? And then it all got shut down.
Yeah, and then trying to figure out if we were going to keep going with the season or not. Yeah, it was weird times.
Because then the pandemic sort of came around and COVID became a thing. So talk us through that timeline then. So what point were you? Because I think I remember the last game was a Glasgow Rocks game, I think it was, before everything got finally shut down. And then I remember Mike Edkins frantically trying to get guys on flights to get back home before the borders had closed and stuff. What was that like for you as a player in that situation, sort of not knowing what was going to happen?
It was weird. It was like I was waiting till the last minute possible. Like I was like, I just got here. I'm not really in a rush to get back. If I get stuck, we figure it out. Because I wanted the season to continue. Obviously, I only played a few games, but it was just like, okay, if it does shut down, what's next? What does this look like? When is basketball going to start up again? So yeah, it was weird times, especially being my first year.
Yeah, like how do you look back on that I mean, obviously you then stayed for another year, but that very first short spell, how do you look back on that very first period, and what was it about that little spell that made you want to decide to come back for another year?
Yeah, I'm about to say it was a good time. Got along with the guys on the team, and most of the guys, I want to say, came back the following year already, built some relationships pretty fast. So coming back, it was pretty easy. I wanted to get a full season on my belt, and I, wanted to win some games. So it was kind of a no-brainer, really.
So talk us about your lockdown then. So were you able to get back in time, or did you spend lockdown in Bristol in the end?
I think I stayed as long as possible, but I ended up leaving, I want to say like a few weeks before the borders closed, probably a week or so before. But yeah, I stayed, hung out a little bit with the guys. Like, let's see what happens.
What about so talk us through the lockdown as a whole then. So I guess you go back home, you get back home just in time before everything shuts down. And then you sort of sitting there with the uncertainty as to, am I going to have a job? Like, how long is this going to last for? Like, I imagine that must have been quite stressful for you.
Yeah, it was. Just at home, nothing to do, not working, so just working out, just kind of in limbo, waiting to hear something, see what's going on. That's all I kind of remember from that time, waiting to see when the season is going to start back up, or is it, and how to stay ready. Because working out with no end goal is kind of tough. It's like, okay, I'm working out, but when am I going to play again and all this? But made it through.
Yeah. How were you able to do that? Because of course, like, everything shut down. Like, I think I don't know what it was like back home for you, but like we were literally like strict lockdown. You can't get out. Like, you have to go out for your one walk a day or whatever it was. And like you just can't. There's no gyms open. There's nothing. So like, how are you able to sort of stay ready for that moment in that situation?
Yeah, so in the States it was completely different. In the UK, we didn't really have a lot of lockdowns or the stages. I want to say after like a couple of months, things were back open, gyms were back open. They were saying social distance, but it really wasn't that. And luckily I knew some people where I was able to get into some gyms alone and work out without getting sick and putting other people's life in jeopardy. So I was able to stay ready, and I love the game. I love basketball, and just working out, I feel better. So it was no problem.
Yeah. So then the world starts to open up, back up again, and then it was announced that the Flyers would return for 2020-21 season. And if I remember correctly, that season ended up starting later than normal, right?
Yeah, I want to say October, right, or somewhere along the lines. Somewhere like, yeah.
I think it was like October or November. So what point were you getting that phone call back again from Andreas, being like, okay, we're ready to go again. This is how it's going to look. It's probably going to be behind closed doors. Not going to have any fans in the building. Do you want to come back?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact timeline, but yeah, I do remember having that conversation where it's like, okay, yeah, like let's do it. I want to come back. Wanted to figure everything else out on paper, and just get the ball rolling because like you said, we're just sitting there waiting for literally months without playing competitive game. So yeah, I just remember just signing up like, okay, let's do this. Let's get this season going.
Yeah. And then we sort of get into that season and it starts all behind closed doors. And do you remember that first game with no fans? Because SGS can be quite a weird place with no fans.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough to play in. Like, that's the tough. No fans, no environment. You walking around with masks on. That was tough. That was probably, I want to say, the hardest times to play basketball, but once you get on that court and the refs are there and your competitive spirit kicks in, it's not that bad, but you miss the fans for sure.
I just remember because I just remember feeling so lucky in that situation because like everyone else was, they still couldn't go out at this point. They couldn't get fans into arenas. So literally the only thing that I was doing was going to games with you guys or commentating on games from home. And you mentioned like some of the games at home at SGS. When you've got like 20 people in there, you can literally hear every single voice. And I spoke to Gareth about it before, and obviously we're on commentary, and normally we can't really hear you guys trash talking in games and things like that. Like we could literally hear everything. It was great. It was
you
so
hear
much
everything,
fun.
all the curse words, everything. So you can't yell at the refs like you want to. There, you said what? Okay, bad.
I think I remember being on commentary courtside, and I was I think we're playing Newcastle at home or something like that, and Darius Defoe goes to the line, and I was saying something like.
Yeah.
I was saying something like, he's like a 70-odd% free throw shooter on the season, like on commentary as he's at the line, and I think I just see him just like turn and look over at me, like when he's about to shoot his free throw, and he's like, you'd never be able to hear that in a packed arena, but because there's no one around, you can literally just hear everything.
Right. Hear a pin drop in there.
Yeah, it was such a crazy season that was. And then so then you then played 28 games. I've got it in my notes here. You played 28 games during that second season with the Flyers. You averaged 15.7 rebounds. We actually finished 8th that year. Made the playoffs, and then again the playoffs were behind closed doors, so it was this May madness. Is that right? We went up to Newcastle for the first leg. The second leg was down in Worcester, and we played against Leicester in the first round. When you look back on kind of that season as a whole, because I think fans slowly started to filter back into games towards the back end of the season. Is that right?
Yeah, towards the end of the season, there were fans at the game, but I think there was a limit, maybe.
Yeah, with a limited capacity. Like, I think when you look back on that season, what do you remember about that? Like, what were some of your favorite moments from that? And I guess like you had that spell of what it was like playing in front of fans from the year before, and just the stark contrast between being the fans and just being in front of empty gyms.
I would say just mentally, like you go into the games differently when there's not going to be any fans there. You kind of got to push yourself to be motivated because when fans there, you want to perform, you want to put on a show. So it's a different approach to the game, I would say. But throughout that whole season, I felt like I just connected with the team well. That kind of brought the best out of me, on the court. And that was kind of my best memories. But some of my best memories were off the court, which made the memories on the court even better because we're winning these games with these guys that I like.
And when you look back on like some of the players that you would have played with, in both of the Flyers teams, I mean, like the second season, you mentioned players like Raf. Of course, Raf's still with us today. He's a club captain now.
Yeah.
And then we talk about players that are still in and around the league. So like Marcus Delpesh, Teddy Okirafor. And then we're like Dan Adozie, Josh Rogers. Talk us through some of your favorite memories of playing alongside those guys.
Oh man, there's so many memories, man. But just on the court, just like winning games, man, because we weren't the top team. Like every game wasn't like, oh, we're for sure gonna win this game. But the close games we did win, some of the overtime wins, those were the best. Those were the best memories for sure.
You also mentioned about Coach, and now he's sort of being 20 years, and the club's had to go through so many different things like this whole pandemic to get it to where it is today. And we speak about Coach Kapoulas. I mean, we said like there's literally no one you'll find who's more passionate about Flyers basketball. Just talk us through what he was like for you as a coach.
Oh man, he was great. Like I could talk to him about anything, stuff going on off the court, on the court. We would watch film. We would watch film together. He'd come up to me, break stuff down. Oh, you did this here, you did that there, and even we have days where like I would get mad at him in practice or something like that, but it wouldn't linger. We were always able to talk it out, and that's when guys come up to me now who are thinking about joining the Flyers or whatever. I always tell them like, "Yo, coach, he's a great guy. You can talk to him. You have a open line of communication with him. He's a good coach. He'll break down the X and O's with you." So that's my guy for sure, and always will be. And I'm forever grateful and thankful for him giving me that opportunity to play for the Flyers, because without that, I'm not where I am today.
Did you have that? Did you have players sort of? Have you had, since you've departed, players sort of speak to you about like, oh, I'm thinking about starting my career in Bristol, and maybe reaching out to former players like yourself just to see what the environment's like and whether it's a good fit?
Yeah, for sure. I had a few guys come through. CJ Jackson, who played there. That's my long-term friend. I grew up with him like since age of like 7.
Wow.
Trey John Jacobs. Me and Trey John, we went to college together. We went to FIU together. I hosted him on his visit, met his parents and everything. Who else? Who else has reached out? I can't think of right now, but those two specifically, I'm like, they reach out like, for sure, do it. If you're even thinking about it or it's on the table, trust me, go for it. You will get something from this situation.
Wow, because it's just a reminder, isn't it? Just how like small the basketball world really is. Because there's always former players that won't have played on the same teams, Flyers teams, with each other, but always have links, whether that be through college, whether that be through high school, growing up. It's such a small, tight knit basketball community, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Even to this day, like even different countries I played in, I end up running into somebody like last year. Running into Justin Gray, who he played with the Fire the year before I got there. But just see him and where he's went in his career, it's pretty cool. Me and Zach were teammates and played against him last year. It's like it's great to see for sure. And the basketball world is super small. You know somebody who knows somebody, and it all comes full circle.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
amazing. I absolutely love that. It's such a cool, tight knit community. It's what makes it so special, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess so. Let's get on to sort of after that season with the Flyers and lockdown, you then you moved to Greece. You play for Aris, as you said, and that is, I mean, in context for the listener, like the Greek league is huge compared to British basketball, and where it is, you have fans setting off flares in the crowd. Like it is, the atmosphere in some of these games is huge. And basketball, and Andreas, I mean, you speak to Andreas, and he'll tell you that basketball is such a huge sport out there, isn't it?
Yeah, my time in Greece was crazy. It was reminiscent of college as far as just like the fan base and how crazy the games could get, but it's still its own different, separate vibe. It was an adjustment for sure because, like you said, it was one of the top leagues in the world. So going from England to Greece, it was adjustment period for sure. Definitely had to learn a lot. I had to instill confidence within myself, knowing that I could compete at this level, even though I haven't before. So that whole season was a learning process. I didn't have my best season by any means, but I stayed on the court. The coach used me. I ended up almost got cut, but didn't, just because I stayed with it, my will. Yeah, Greece was a challenge and kind of set me on my way. Knew, okay, this is now I can see how I want my career to go and where it can go.
How much a part did Coach Kapoulas have in sort of helping you with that job in Greece? Because obviously he's got that connection out there in Greece as well. Did he speak to people? Did he give you good recommendations in terms of helping you get into that role?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. That always happens. Your next job, that team is always calling the previous coach, the previous trainer to see like, oh, how is he on the court? Does he work hard, et cetera, et cetera. And even when I was there, I remember vividly. I was like, I was just walking around the city, and I was struggling at the moment there. Just hit him up, called him like, yo, I'm struggling. What do you think? Just tell him kind of what I'm going through. He always, had helpful advice, encouraging words. But yeah, I remember that first year in Greece. That time in Greece, I reached out. He was there.
I love
He
that.
always responds.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that because I mean, whenever you speak to Andreas and he always talks about former players, he always goes, "Look, anyone who leaves the club is always part of our Flyers family." And I guess you don't really hear much after that as to how much the coach is in touch with players. But like hearing that from yourself, that you've reached out to coach when you're struggling out there or need some advice or anything like that. That's so good because it's so much more than basketball, isn't it? Like you build that bond from working together here in Bristol, and that is good to hear. That door is always open for you to reach out whenever you need to. I love that.
No, that's fabulous.
Yeah. So you play like 24 games out there, and as you said, your numbers, they went down a little bit. You say it was more of a struggle, your adjustment period though for you. But then you sort of use that as another stepping stone to then enter Basketball Champions League, and you play in Czechia. You sign in Nuremberg, and again for those who don't know, I mean, in our league, we in EMBL we played against Brno, and there's another team also, Opava, that play in the Czech league. But if in terms of Nuremberg, they are essentially the leading team out there, aren't they? They're the number one team. They always have been. They sort of are top of that league, and that is a Basketball Champions League team. And was that a big drawing point for you to now, like, I want to try and get into playing that European basketball, like against other European teams?
Yeah, for sure. Going there, I knew a little bit about the club, but it wasn't until I got there I'm like, okay, this is like a tradition of excellence. They're always winning the league, and being in Champions League isn't easy. So just being in that culture, like coming from ours, which is a huge club, big history. Like I said, was a stepping stone to now understanding what position I'm in now with this Champions League club, how I got to come to work every day, how I got to conduct myself on and off the court, et cetera, et cetera. Nuremberg, that was a great experience. Wasn't the best season in terms of, winning, because we didn't win the league that year. And that was like the first time, and I don't know, for them was like 16 years or something crazy. It wasn't supposed to happen. Weird year. A lot of movement amongst the players, and then fired the coach. So it was a strange year for the club, but they're back on their feet, having a great year this year. Still keep in touch with those guys. But yeah, Nuremberg was a great stop for me. Opened my eyes to European basketball even more.
Yeah, I was going to say, then you get the call to go to Germany, and this time you're in the Bundesliga and the BBL. And you sort of touched on it earlier, but you were one of a number of former Flyers players who are actually all playing in the Bundesliga at the same time, because you mentioned Justin Gray, like Zach Copeland, they were both at Bamberg, I believe, at the time. Hamburg Towers, there was a player called VJ King. Did you play against VJ? Or was that
yeah, he was there too. I played against him.
So he had literally just come straight from the Flyers the season before to then go to Hamburg. So again, it's like another example of a former Flyer man moving on to play at a higher level in the Bundesliga. And then we also had for UI Baskets Oldenburg, one of our academy players, Dean Williams, came out of the SGS Basketball Academy. He was playing out there as well. I think he's still playing there now. He's playing for a different team in the Bundesliga right now.
Yeah, I didn't know he was with the SES. That's crazy. At that point, you have so many different teammates, and you talk about your career, where you played, and always when I mentioned the UK, they always be like, I always hear like it wasn't, the level there isn't that good, but we got 4 guys in this league and all doing really well. So I just feel like that needs to stop. Like, if you can play basketball, you play basketball. If you can hoop, you can hoop. It's just, a matter of opportunity and having a good agent and being put in the right position.
Yeah, I feel like there's been like quite a big stigma over British basketball over the last few years, and like the talent level you're seeing on the court, it's literally right there in terms of like the level. The step isn't actually as far. There's some of the best players from our league going on to play at this level. You look at people like Gino Crandall, for example, now playing in the Bundesliga. He's a guy that came
played against him there.
Do you know what I mean? So like it's it's really not that far off. I mean, Gino was a guy tearing it up in Leicester, and now he's tearing it up in the Bundesliga. Like it's really close. And obviously, we played against Bamberg this year in the EMBL, and we're literally right there until the fourth quarter where they just pulled away in the last couple of possessions. We're about a minute and a half away from pushing that game to overtime. So it just shows that like the level of British basketball has grown, right, since over the last sort of 5-6 years.
100%. And even having London Lions play Euro Cup, that was huge for the league. I felt like, so yeah, that's I don't like that about the British basketball, because you got guys that's coming out and having great careers.
Yeah. And then obviously now we just get to where you are today. Obviously that signing over in Hungary. Just talk to us how that move came about and what was it that drew you to play out there?
Yeah, so after Germany, obviously I wanted to either stay at that level or higher or play European competition. I was weighing it out, seeing what would come on the table. Some good things came up, but this situation came about. And the team, they're really ambitious. They wanted to compete for a championship. I seen the guys that they signed, and I felt like I could come here. We could potentially win it. And the team here, Falco, their Champions League team as well, similar to like how Nürnberg is in Czech. This is how the team Falco is here in Hungary. Win the league every year, playing Champions League, advancing to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, etc. But I feel like we had a chance, and right now it's going great. We only lost 2 games, and that was to Falco. Having one of the best season of my career right now. So it ended up being a great move. Shout out to my agent, my coach, another Greek coach. I always end up with Greek coaches throughout my career lately. But yeah, it's going well so far. It's going well. I'm happy with this move. And then hopefully after this season, we see what happens.
Yeah. Amazing. And how can are your games being broadcast online in terms of like if any Flyers fans want to maybe tune in to watch some of your games, how can they follow along?
Yeah, for sure. They usually have them live on YouTube through I think it's called Hun Basket, like HUN, abbreviation for Hungary, and then Basket on YouTube, or M4 Sport, which you can find online. Just search it in, search up the team name on M4 Sport. It should pop up. Usually play on Saturdays.
Amazing. Great stuff. Well, I've got a few questions here from the mailbag. We actually asked some fans to send in some questions for you. And we've got a couple here to read out for you. First one is, I guess we sort of touched on this a little bit, but Berto Dryden on IG says, what was your favourite memory as a Flyer?
My favorite memory as a Flyer? I'd probably say Leicester at their place. I feel like we played them a lot, obviously, that year and stuff. But it was one game where we just dominated them, and then at the end, I just remember catching an alley-oop from Justin Baker, and it kind of just sealed the deal. I remember looking over at their bench and their coach, and they were just like defeated, depleted. And we always struggled. They always would beat us. Coretta would go off. He was in the stands that game, so he couldn't do anything about it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm liking this right now.
I remember that game so well as well. I think it was like a 30 or 40-point win. I remember that so well. Yeah. I was sat in the stands, and I was like, oh, my goodness. I just couldn't believe what was going on. I've got another question here from Kobe Joe Mama on IG. What is the best buzzer beater you've ever done?
Best buzzer beater. Probably the one against, what was that? Sheffield. I think it was Sheffield to send it into overtime.
Oh yeah. I remember it very well.
I think that one. Mm-hmm. All the time. I don't have a lot of those in my career, but that one from the Flyers, yes, for sure.
Yeah. Tom Kent from our Bristol Sport office, who wants to know, what was your favourite food while playing out in Greece?
Favorite food. I had so much good food. I can't even.
Are you one of those kind of guys that when you're in that country, you're like go and embrace the culture of the food? So you're like, right, while I'm here, I'm gonna make sure I try everything. So like, I like maybe in Hungary right now, you tried like eating goulash, for example. Are you sort of going out and embracing all that?
Yeah. Yes, exactly, more or less. And then when I was in Greece, we had a restaurant where we would eat at. So I would try all the Greek dishes. I'm trying to think the name of it. It's kind of like it's not like a pasta, but similar to like a lasagna with this cheese on top. I can't think of the name, but that's fire. The desserts are really good. Like Greece has some really good food, and they season their food. It's nice. It's nice.
It's all about the seasoning, mate. You know that.
Yes.
Got a question from Raf Thomas Edwards. He's been in touch with the pod. He wants to know who's better at Monopoly and poker, me or you?
Me, of course. Like, it's no question. Like, I beat Raph in Monopoly so many times, and then in poker, another memory. We had like a barbecue day at the house one time. Justin played, Josh Rogers played, Raph, me. I'm pretty sure we played for like 6-7 hours. I finished on top, and I have the video in my phone to prove it.
Oh my god!
Very competitive on and off the court, but like even Uno, you can ask Marcus. They'll press about Uno, and I seen him recently, and I beat him in Uno. So they
I did
know.
see that on
They
Insta.
know.
I saw that on Instagram.
Yes.
Is that because Uno is still very much a thing on our team bus now? Pasquale has introduced this Italian card game called Scopa. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't, but I will look it up and learn it for sure.
They're playing that right now, and I don't understand what's going on half the time, but they all seem to be playing it right now. It's the big thing on the Flyers team bus the last couple of years, actually.
Yeah.
Producer Dan, have you got a question for Eric Lockett?
I do have a question. It's not really my question, though. It comes from one of the Flyers super fans, Helen, who just says, "Do you miss me?" Helen, of course, being Sam Hardy's wife. She was a big fan of yours, Eric. So I don't know if you remember Helen at all, but it would mean a lot if you just said yes.
Yes, I do. So much.
Great. I thought you would.
Sam couldn't be here today as my co-host, but yeah, his wife Helen had a little crush on you whilst you were
a little
in
crush.
Bristol.
A little crush. I think it was quite a big crush, actually.
Yeah, it was quite big.
I don't think I was aware of that.
Final question I got here from the mailbag. Oliver Dungunen. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. This one just says future plans ?
Future plans. Only future plans at the moment is to return to like European competition. I want to play in either Champions League or Euro Cup next year for sure. That's my goal for next season.
I was gonna sort of follow on and just to round up the pod and just sort of say like, look, what's next for you? Kind of where do you see your basketball journey taking you? Let's like fast forward like 4 or 5 years from now. Kind of where do you see your basketball journey taking you rest of your career?
Yeah. As of now, I feel like I'm trending up still. Like I said, I'm having one of the best season as far as like shooting, because that's always been kind of like the knock on me from, I feel like reaching certain levels, certain leagues where, okay, he can't really shoot the ball, but now I'm shooting the ball, I'm scoring, and I'm still defending at a very high level. So it's like, I feel like I got a lot of room for growth. So whatever that looks like, highest level possible is my goal. And I don't feel that old right now, even though I got a couple grays in my beard, but I still feel young.
You're always part of the Flyers family regardless, mate. And it's great to see you have that such, to use us as a platform. And that's exactly what we want out of players, is we want to be a club that can provide players a platform to get them out there, to really propel them into their careers. And hopefully you've achieved that with your time, that short time that you did spend with us in Bristol.
Yes, I did, 100%. And I want to come back to a game where it's, there's a full sellout crowd, and I've been seeing that too. The fan base is growing a lot, so I will come back and catch a game for sure. Amazing, great stuff. Yeah.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for spending time with us on the Bristol Flyers podcast. We really appreciate you spending your time with us. Have you got a game this weekend?
We do. Got a pretty important game this weekend, and then the following weekend we have the Cup. So some of the big weeks coming up, leading up into the playoffs. So just prepping for that, keeping my body right, my mind sharp.
Amazing. Well, best of luck with your games this weekend. Thanks again for spending time with us on the Flyers podcast. And do stay in touch, mate. There's always an invite for you to come back to a Flyers game in future. Come check it out in front of a full stand at SGS, or maybe one day when we're down at the arena here at Ashton Gate, get you to come down and see it in front of a sold out 5,000 fans. Hopefully, right here at Ashton Gate.
Yes, for sure. Thank you for having me, man. It was great catching up for sure.
You're listening to the Bristol Flyers podcast.
Great chat with Eric Lockett, our guy. And good to see he does miss Sam's wife, Helen.
Oh, he does. You could tell. It was in his eyes.
He had no idea, did he?
No. Sorry, Helen.
Sam missed the best episode. He could have explained the whole story and everything, but...
Oh, well.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Bristol Flyers podcast. Thanks for listening in. But Sam should be back, and keyword is should, next week. We're also, big news, we're planning our 100th episode, which is coming, I think it's episode 96 or something right now, so it's in the next 4 weeks or so. We've got a big guest, and by big guest, I mean very, very, very big guest. They're going to be coming on for our 100th episode in around end of March, if things go to plan. So watch this space. And that's going to do it. That's it for this week's show. Thanks so much to Eric Lockett for joining us on our latest 20th anniversary special. We will get more guests from over the 20 years of Flyers. I think we might continue this 20th anniversary thing into next season potentially as well. I think it'd be quite good. I've got so many guests down that I want to speak to. It's hard to fit them all into one season,
yeah,
right?
Well, why not? I mean, there's so many players that have come through the gates of Bristol Flyers. Why not just keep speaking to them all? I like it.
Yeah. So keep your ears peeled for that. We should be back with a guest from this year's squad for next week's show. A final bit of housekeeping. If you're enjoying the Bristol Flyers podcast, to please give us a rating and a review via your usual podcast provider. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. But until then, we'll see you next week right here on the Bristol Flyers podcast, powered by Matchday Live.